Thanks so much for joining us on this Friday. This is day 9 of crowds taking to the streets in protest, all in response to the death of George Floyd. You can see that there's thousands of people who've turned out in Hoboken, New Jersey today. Right now, there are protests all across Manhattan, and we have live team coverage starting with News 4's Adam Harding, who's walking with a group, Adam, near Madison Square Garden. How's it going?
We're right across the street, Natalie, from Madison Square Garden. It appears like this might be where these protesters have been going. You see the police line right here in front of Penn Station. And let me show you off onto the side what we're seeing right now. The protesters are standing peacefully on the steps of Penn Station. And this crowd, which started marching a couple of hours ago, right before 4:30, they started marching. They started at Washington Square. They went down 5th Avenue. They cut up Lexington, then down 34th. They found themselves right now at Madison Square Garden and Penn Station. And you see this line of police. Right before we went on the air, we heard protesters chanting, "You serve us, you serve us." Now, this entire crowd has remained incredibly peaceful for the entire time that we've been marching. Police have just been watching them from the sidewalks, making sure that the crowd stayed in order, which they have. The significance of today, of course, being Breonna Taylor's birthday. So just minutes ago, we heard another rendition of Happy Birthday, and you can hear some protesters right now chanting her name. We talked with some of these demonstrators, and their message was very clear that even though all the officers in Minnesota in the George Floyd case are now facing charges, including increased charges for that officer who had his knee on George Floyd's neck, they say that is not enough. They say you need to change the system. And one of the things that they're pointing out is we have not seen any legislative change. So even though we have seen thousands peacefully letting their voices be heard across the city, their message, they say, needs to go even further. There needs to be some type of critical change. Laws need to be changed. And that's why we're watching these protesters converge. It may just be several different groups meeting here at Penn Station, but what a powerful sight this is to see right now. Simply thousands filling the streets and the steps outside of Penn Station, outside of Madison Square Garden, and protesters continue to chant, continue to cheer, and they are remaining incredibly peaceful. Again, this crowd now well into the thousands. We've been with them for about 2 hours, a little over 2 hours. And right now, look at right over here. They are chanting Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter. And we've seen, Natalie, a number of poignant moments throughout this walk for a few hours where protesters would stop, they would take a knee, they would raise their hands. And typically when police would come closer to a protester, that's when we would see the protesters throw their hands up, a symbolic gesture to say, hands up, don't shoot, and that is a message they have also been saying all throughout. So things are starting to get a little bit quiet here. Now it looks like there may be a message. We'll stay with these protesters. Natalie, we'll send things back to you.
All right, Adam, thanks so much, and we thank you for your coverage. I know you've been out there all week long. Well, in Brooklyn this afternoon, a crowd of more than 1,000 strong marched across Flatbush Avenue and Prospect Park before they set up right there at the steps of the public library for a vigil. And in Harlem right now, a group is gathered to remember another victim of police violence. We go out to News 4's Miles Miller. Mile, we're talking about Breonna Taylor.
That's right. And as those protesters made their way up 110th Street to go to Cathedral of St. John the Divine, they stopped here in the middle of the street, took a knee, and put their fist up. And that was because this brother was here. This is Corey Wise. He member of the Central Park Five, who obviously it was the big case that sort of spurred movements like this. And Corey, can I just ask you, folks came here, you took a knee with them. Why was it so important for you to do that?
Because I'm allowed to do that with them. Enough is enough. No, man.
When you see all these people gathering for Breonna Taylor today, but for George Floyd every other day, nonstop protests in New York City, what do you make of it all?
It's just enough is enough, you know. Right about now, you know, although, you know, Black Lives Matter, but at the moment, all people lives matter at the moment. We need everybody help. We need everybody help because we have no help. Black Lives Matter has no help. So, you know.
You're here to show your support. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. And I mean, the crowd here came, they saw Cory, they stopped in the middle of the intersection. People here in Harlem know the story of the Central Park Five, the Netflix documentary, scripted series that was done on that, the push for Black lives, and the message about police violence has resonated in this community for years. And so it was a very poignant moment as they're walking to the Cathedral of St. John the Divine on 110th Street to stop here and pay their respects in person to someone who has seen the effects of it firsthand. Of course, in this case, exonerated, as he said, you know, in the cases of Breonna Taylor and George Floyd, those are two cases in which those people are not here to see justice served. We're live in Harlem. I'm Miles Miller, News 4 New York. Back to you.
All right, Miles, we thank you for that perspective there. Thousands of protesters brought out signs and megaphones in New Jersey as well today, calling for racial equality and protesting the death of George Floyd. When I got to News 4's Brian Thompson, who has more from Hoboken.
Well, about the worst you can say about this whole event was that one Hoboken officer collapsed from heat exhaustion. That was it. This was a very peaceful protest, some 10,000 strong. They came from all over Hoboken and all over North Jersey, thousands marching in a massive display of peaceful protest over the killing of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and Freddie Gray and so many others.
I would like to see black and white people come together and make a change together.
Floyd's death uniting this 1 square mile town sitting on the banks of the Hudson River. As we saw in Hoboken today and for the past week and a half, never have we seen such a massive turnout of all races and creeds in support of the Black Lives Matters movement.
I don't think you have to be black to support this cause. This is I'm here to support everyone. The Black Lives.
Have you ever participated in anything like this? Have you ever thought of participating in anything like this?
No, but I think this is a good time to start.
Chopper 4 from overhead showing the absolute mass of people, estimated at 10,000 strong, marching down the waterfront of this crowded city. Protest numbers like these rarely seen in New Jersey since the Vietnam War a half-century ago. And yet, even as they filed past the well-guarded Hoboken Police Department, there was mostly a sense that things will change, that leaders, even police, are listening.
If they say liberty and justice for all, shouldn't it be for all, not for just one, not for unlike one specific people, or for all?
This demand for change is being heard in Newark. The mayor there, Ross Baraka, saying today that he will introduce an ordinance that would declare as hate groups white supremacist, Nazi organizations, and the KKK, and that the ordinance would ban them from the city of Newark and make any of their actions there illegal. Now, of course, that will probably be challenged in court, but the mayor says he's prepared to face that challenge. In Hoboken, Brian Thompson, News 4 New York.
Well, Governor Cuomo is pushing for a new law focused on police reform. The Say Their Name legislation is named after the long list of people who have suffered at the hands of police officers. It consists of 4 cornerstones: transparency of past disciplinary records of police, outlawing chokeholds, making false race-based 911 calls subject to hate crime prosecution, and appointing the state attorney general as an independent investigator into allegations of police abuse. You can take a look there.